Personally, I like words when they're in the fashion of a song. I like the fact that a song can tell you in a very short period of time the whole beginning, middle, and come to the end. It's kind of neat. Where's the Bellevity? Bellevity? He's in the washroom. The washroom. Oh, well. There he is. You're on. I'm just here getting it ready for you. No, you're going to warm up the chair. Oh, that chair. That's a neat addition.
That's a good thing.
Wasn't it?
Those of you who have not tried it should try the chair at intermission.
There will have to be an intermission tonight because we've got so damn many readers.
There's a few, isn't there? That's lovely.
And this is just 1 month before the anniversary.
Yes, it is, John. And which anniversary is that?
I'm not even sure anymore. I know it's not the 10th.
Boy, this piece isn't getting old, is it? It's the it's the 11th annual first birthday of Flow, according to Longevity John birthday standards.
No.
No?
No, that would be the 12th.
Well, no, you can't have an annual until you had one. This just gets funnier and funnier. It's our 12th birthday next month.
Thank you.
How neat.
You've also closed down 2 venues.
Right. The final show at the original garage and the final show at the Silver Bridge Inn.
Yeah.
Which that got a little rowdy, didn't it? Having drink and poetry together.
It was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the wonderful Lafayette Hotel, Chateau Lafayette in Ottawa, many a young writer, upon finding out that their heroes were all addicted to drink, thought that if they too were addicted to drink, that they too would become great authors.
Mm-hmm.
They reversed it,
Right.
but they tried every night to.
They forgot to do the work first.
They forgot that part.
Ah, yes. It's not enough just to be an alcoholic. It's true.
Another thing too. Speaking of words and for the love of words, someone was saying that they're having a show and it's a non-alcoholic show.
Who?
Oh, it doesn't matter if it's a non-alcoholic show. It means I can't go.
Right.
That means alcoholics aren't allowed to go. It's that little thing like non-alcohol.
Non-alcohol. Not
Event
non-alcohol.
is different than a non-alcoholic event.
Right. Well, there you go. It's a fine distinction, isn't it?
Well, it's for the love of words. You know, if you're going to use words, and use them in their proper fashion.
That's right.
Especially in a room such as this.
I know.
I'll dare say I'll never hear that from any of these people.
Word snobs.
Again.
No.
Again.
They won't invite you to a non-alcoholic event. Anyway. So, yes, thank you for your invitation. Almost 12 years ago.
I was talking to Rob about that.
Rob McKenzie.
Yeah, because he was playing piano that night.
Yes, he was. How's he doing?
We could always try that again. That'd be hard on some of the other readers, though.
It would be, but we could try it.
That's how we started off, as sort of that beat poet thing. Where there's a bit of percussion, or a bit of music going on, and Bill was doing some improv at that time, was it? Or was it actually your poems over top of music?
I think it was a bit of both, yeah.
Bit of both. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll leave it to the past.
Yeah, it's in the past
This is
now.
the present. There's Tim.
There's Tim. Different light? Whoa, you guys have more than one? Wow, that's beautiful. Okay.
See, it's a good thing we bantered as long as we did, or that we would have had a failing light in the middle of a show. And you know what that can do to someone's confidence level?
It just bottoms out. That's
you
right.
know it. It's
Yeah.
hard enough getting on stage.
I know.
All these people here are nervous. I know that.
Well, Byron especially, because he hasn't been here for months. Be okay now, Byron?
Mark's never nervous.
Everybody settled you in? Mark, no. You just.
But we'll find out tonight.
No, we'll find out.
Phil Levity, take it away.
Thank you. Well, I thought, looking at the sky tonight, which was definitely yellow-orange, that beautiful combination of yellow and orange, and the thinnest silver moon I had seen in many a month, that I'd bring some poetry to torture you who are still lovers, you who are active. To be superior. How nice it is to be superior, because really, it's no use pretending one is superior, isn't one? I mean, people like you and me. I quite agree. The trouble is, everybody thinks they're just as superior as we are, just as superior. That's what's so boring. People are so boring, but they can't really think it, do you think? At the bottom, they must know we are really superior, don't you think? Don't you think, really, they know we're their superiors? I couldn't say. I've never got to the bottom of superiority. I should like to. Have you guessed yet? That author who inspired such maddening love? Far off at the core of space, at the quick of time, beats and goes still. The great swan upon the waters of all endings, the swan within vast chaos, within the electron. For us, no longer he swims calmly, nor clacks across the forces, furrowing a great grey trail of happy energy. Nor is he nesting passive upon the atoms, nor flying north desolative icewards to the sleep of ice, nor feeding in the marshes, nor honking horn-like into the twilight. But he stoops now in the dark upon us. He is treading our women, and we men are put out as the vast white bird furrows our featherless women with unknown shocks, and stamps his black marsh feet on their white and marshy flesh. Swans. Mr. Primer's been having quite an affair with a hen lately, haven't you, Mark? Is it a hen or is it a rooster? It's a turkey. He's a very cute turkey, very handsome. Leda, come not with kisses, not with caresses of hands and lips and murmurings. Come with a hiss of wings and a sea touch of a beak and treading of wet, webbed, wave-working feet into the marsh, soft belly. That would be a good one for the Wild Wings Gala. One more from D.H. Lawrence. You were going to guess, I know. The complete poems of. Won't it be strange when the nurse brings the newborn infant to the proud father and shows its little webbed greenish feet, made to smite the waters behind it, or the round, wild, vivid eye of a wild goose staring out of fathomless skies and seas, or when it utters that undaunted little bird cry of one who will settle on icebergs and honk across the Nile, and when the father says, "This is none of mine," woman, where got you this little beast? Where will there be a whistle of wings in the air and an icy draught? Will the singing of swans, high up, invisible, break the drums of his ears and leave him forever listening for the answer? D.H. Lawrence. Brigitte was saying that they had their... what did you think it was tonight? It's like the closing, the final night, I guess, yeah. And I was remembering that for years they did quite a large gala at the Kamikin House, and maybe it was there this year too. Was it the opening? Do you remember, Rachel? Were you there? Yeah, where was the big gala? The big one. Oh, maybe. That sounds right. Oh, that sounds like fun. Good. Nice. Yes, they've been working hard for years, the Somnos Marsh Society. And last year, they paired with the North American Trumpeter Swan Society, which was pretty damn exciting because they're a big, large organization in the States. So it brought a lot of support and recognition, I think, to the cause in general, which is good. They shall not all be paved under these marshes. Mark, why don't you start us off, because you were so keen and warming up with reverb and John on electric guitar, and you're probably ripe and ready.
This is by a guy named Tao Lin. He's from Brooklyn, and the book is called Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. And this particular piece
which I found actually one of the easier pieces to follow. I'm going to read. It's called The Power of Ethical Reasoning. The most callous, stupid things were done just because regulations required them, and no one thought to change the regulations. There are many human beings locked away in special wards throughout the country, some of them abandoned by their parents and sometimes unloved by anyone else. Just as a hamster can be conditioned to press a lever for food, a human being can be conditioned by professional rewards to ignore intellectual contradictions and the suffering of others. Professional prestige, a vague sense of progress, cash, money, all stars, and the opportunity to travel were the maintaining factors in our society. The mildly obese are respected for their stability, fortitude, and excuses. They make a tiny difference by voting, but a big difference by spending $10,000 on things. And the voting and spending are for opposite things. The out-of-control behavior of meat-eating human beings is actually admirable because it's comforting to mothers articulating intellectual convictions, isolating irrational behaviors in emails and poems, and showing the Pulitzer Prize in your mom's face saying, "I won the Pulitzer Prize, bitch," to humble her into being a better person are a few of the tasks that now control my life. Alone at night, I turned away from the computer, hit my face on the bed, made a noise, and turned back toward the computer with a neutral facial expression, thinking, I knew how it felt not to be in control of one's life. The next day I said, if you really wanted to change, you would have changed by now. And this is just another passage, which I also find easy to follow. The function of a publicly traded company is to increase its worth so that stockholders will have more money now than before. A publicly traded company must increase profits or convince the hamster population that profits will increase soon, or else it will exist less than not exist. When one publicly traded company loses business, another publicly traded company gains business, except when an independently owned company gains the business. An independently owned company is not existentially required to increase profits, but can use profits to increase wages, improve quality, lower prices, fund charities, or institute money-losing but socially beneficial programs as ends in themselves rather than means for increasing profits.
Who was the chemical guy that came out and said basically that? We're not here for the people, we're here for the profit shareholders. Blah, blah, blah. We don't care if we poison you. Brigitte is back to visit us after traveling the world. Where have you been? I don't know. She's been busy. And apparently on Rachel's invitation with a special poem from the gala. Is that what you told me? Related to the gala? No, it's not. That's completely wrong. Sorry. Well, come on up. You can explain. Brigitte Furlonger. I can say your last name incorrectly too. Is that right? Furlonger.
It's really actually like phonetic.
Okay, I wondered.
Hi. So Rachel it was a friend of Rachel's, and we were talking about Métis people, and somebody was raving about a poet. Her name is Marilyn Dumont, and so I'm going to recite one of her poems. And I actually spoke to her brother and said, "Would you mind if I actually recited her poem?" And being a fifth cousin once removed, he said, "Of course, it's fine." So she doesn't know me at all, but I feel like I've been given permission. I'm also Métis, so here we go. This one is called Railroaded. Dear John, I'm still here and half-breed. After all these years, you're dead, funny thing. That railroad you wanted so badly? There was talk a year ago of shutting it down, the dayliner at least, from sea to shining sea. And you know, John, after all that shuffling us around to suit the settlers, we're still here, and Métis. We're still here after Meech Lake, and one no good for nothing Indian holding up the train, stalling the cabin. And John, that goddamned railroad never made this nation great. 'Cause the railroad shut down, and this country is still quarreling over unity, and Riel is dead, but he keeps on coming back. In all the Bill Wilsons yet to speak out of turn or favor, because you know as well as I that we were railroaded by some steel tracks that didn't last and some settlers who wouldn't settle, and it's funny, we're still here and calling ourselves half-breed. So, on a lighter note, I've also brought a poem that I wrote. A little bit about myself. I'm a writer and a photographer, and I have a piece in the Wild Wings. And this relates to the conversation about alcohol earlier, so that's kind of fun. Inspiration through fermentation. Click, captured vision, a photograph, a picture to be framed. Still for a moment, yet the subject's caught in the act. Stillness in the middle of action, holding lies and lives, yet the moment tells an entire story to be framed. This moment held for eternity, accurate in the moment, taken to the darkroom to alter truth into deception, to be framed. Deriving originality from the mundane, creating cleverness from the norm, finding insight where most see none, all in the name of creativity, to be framed. This moment held for eternity on someone's walls, on someone's phone, in some stranger's life, to be framed. Photographer, rendered storyteller, pulling viewer into their mind's eye, pushing viewer to rethink. They better be damned good to be framed. Scribble, captured word, a paragraph, a story to be read. Static words creating an evolving vision, stationary paper holding action, holding lies and lives. Yet each word conveys a picture to be read. This story held for eternity, inaccuracies abound in interpretation. In the dark, dreams and nightmares come to life, challenging author to find words to recreate visions to be read. Deriving originality from the mundane, creating cleverness from the norm, finding insight where most see none, all in the name of creativity, to be read. Each moment held for eternity on someone's shelf, on someone's e-reader, in some stranger's life, to be read. Storyteller, rendered photographer, pulling the reader into an altered world, pushing the reader to read between the lines. They better be damn good to be read. So I sip something strong to alter blank canvases and white paper into tangible illusions. I down another ounce to find new, unknown truths and create believable lies, ultimately inspiration through fermentation, hoping a stranger thinks it's good enough to be read and to be framed.
Brigitte was also famously the creator of Priscilla the Poetry Fridge when we first met you a few years ago. And is Priscilla still up front, John? I hate to ask. Did you notice? She's lived out front for a while now. So nice that she has a permanent home. Mr. Nimbley, we used to call him Errol Nimbley. Perhaps we still do. We haven't seen Byron for a while. Are you ready, or are you still creating there? You're good? Okay. Come on up, sir. Nice to have you back again.
Good evening. Well, something a little lighter. Some names have a rhythm to them. So I have there's a Canadian tennis player you may have heard of. Her name's Bianca. Does that ring any bells for anyone? No? Andreescu? Bianca Andreescu? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. So I came up with this. I might have to read it till my mind kicks in here. Okay, Bianca Andreescu can be anagrammed to a basic endurance. Bianca Vanessa Andreescu, good fortune at tennis has blessed you. When you play with assurance and basic endurance, no foe on the court can outguess you. Okay, that's my tribute. So here's another name. It's been a while, okay? Okay, this is just a little something. They're all just little somethings. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III drove up to the White House when given the word. Though more to the point, he was being chauffeured, for having a driver is what he preferred. And driving yourself would be somewhat absurd when you're Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III drove up to the White House when given the word. Though more to the point, he was being chauffeured, for having a driver is what he preferred. And driving yourself would be somewhat absurd when you're Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III. Okay. Okay. I'm going to read something that I did for a Valentine's Day event that Bill put on a few years ago. I remember that Stephen was here for that one, or there for that one. And I probably read it more than once, but I think I'll just read it through. It was for meals on. It was to raise funds for Meals on the Ground, if anyone remembers that, for the homeless. So Bill said, "Can you do something?" And I said, "Okay." So here we go. While friends all around me were thriving, myself I'd been barely surviving. I had had some bad luck and now lived in my truck. I was down in the dumps, dumpster diving. Then I saw her at Meals on the Ground. My heart skipped and my mind spun around. Our eyes met as we dined, and our souls intertwined. I rejoiced in the love I had found. My thoughts raced as I searched for a line, something sweet that would make her all mine. Then I swallowed my pride and sat down by her side and said this to my new Valentine. I look Italian, that's why they call me Gino. Got a smile just like Rudolph Valentino. When I get you alone, I'll be bad to the bone. Gonna mount you like a Penta Palomino. Well, talk about shock and surprise. I felt stabbed by the glare in her eyes. After that came the slap and the meal in my lap, with the soup soaking through to my thighs. Hey, I chilled and I didn't get frantic. My plan B was to be more romantic. I went hunting for hours for chocolates and flowers to prove that my love was gigantic. At the drugstore, I looked for a card, sentimentally penned by a bard. I picked one that had puppies dressed up as two yuppies. Selecting a card was so hard. Trimmed my beard and the hairs in my nose, washed my pits and I wiped down my clothes. Then I donned my black hat. I looked dapper in that. Nothing now except to see how it goes. So I rushed to my dear Valentine with perfume and a bottle of wine. Though she did hold my hand, things did not end as planned. For her unreturned love I now pine. She adored the silk hankies from Dante's and the book of love poems by Cervantes. There she stood all aglow. How was I gonna know that she wouldn't like edible panties? There you go. Valentine's Day. Okay, now just a few snippets. Do you want a few more snippets? We'll do this. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of a regurgitation, but from the sublime to the ridiculous, eh? Okay. Let's see what I can do here. Okay. Well, here we go. Oh, here's a couple. This is okay. There's a Limerick dictionary online, and I've called the ODILF, the Omnificent English Dictionary in Limerick Form, and you get to evoke the meaning of various words. They're only up to G something, and they have 100,000 limericks already. Okay, dry humping. Long I've dreamed that her bones I'd be jumping. Here at last we are grinding and bumping. She said sex should be safe, but I'm starting to chafe. Fully clothed, she insists on dry humping. Curt. A husband who'd stepped on some toes, always staying out late with his hose, woke to breakfast in bed and a curt note which read, "Here's your sausage, I hope it regrows." Okay. Got right to the chase. Okay, all right, in the same vein, dependableness. Dependableness, very important. My old vibrator is firm and yet bendable. Plus, unlike other styles, it's extendable. I rely on its use, and despite much abuse, its dependableness is commendable. Effect. A trick-turning debutante fallen was bothered in springtime by pollen. The effect of each sneeze was a vaginal squeeze. God bless you, men say while they're bawling. Critical organ. I decided this summer for fun that I'd nap in the nude in the sun. I awoke on the sand with my abs nicely tanned and my critical organ well done. Definition of critical organ: that part of the body that is most susceptible to radiation damage under the specific conditions under consideration. Oh, now here's someone else's. I really like this one. It's by Graham Lester, who lives in Glasgow. He's part of that dictionary project. And it goes, I awoke late last night in my bed with a grandiose scheme in my head for ascending Mount Everest, but it wasn't my cleverest, so I went to the bathroom instead. Okay, back to me. Here's one. I'm in luck because I'm deaf in one ear, and for media lies I've no fear. I do not get the blues when I'm glued to the news, for it's only the true half I hear. There we go. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's one that's very literary. A bibbed patron sat eating deep fried. Battered chicken was piled high and wide. I said, God, are you big, you Falstaffian pig. My remark was, of course, an aside. There's another one. I rebuffed a flirtatious advance from a wraith at a seance in France. I could see through her clearly. She could not love me dearly. We hadn't a ghost of a chance. When the farmhand suggested she stay in the barn for a roll in the hay, she said, sit on my stool and I'll straddle your tool. I can finish the milking that way. Paid a doxy is the word defined here, paid a doxy just what she was owed, then at sea in my dinghy got blowed. But the mutinous whore swam away with an oar, which explains why in circles I rode. Astronomers once had the gall to proclaim the world's round like a ball, but soon findings empirical proved it non-spherical, slightly deflating them all. That's it? I'm out? That's it, I'm out anyway. Wait, maybe one more. Oh. Aw. I've got a couple. Okay, one more. Whoop. Oh, okay, I'll leave with, okay, okay. Well, I'll stop there then. I have a love of words one, but. God, I think maybe it's, what is that one? No, I don't. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming to visit. Trying the chair. Oh, I'd forgotten completely what a naughty boy is. We would have saved him for the second half, but that's good. We got it rolling. I noticed Greg is here, but your other half is not. No. She's still on conference?
No, she's back.
Oh, resting.
Her mom's sick. So.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Did you bring something this week?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all right.
Broke my left foot.
Good. Let's see, Stephen. Yes, who was that? Where was that show, Barn? Was that the one we did at Noodles of the World, or where were we? Or was it at the showroom? Was that the garage? A fundraiser. Right. Come on up, Stephen. And Stephen, of course, was also at our very first show. So thank you for coming to visit. Good to see you, sir.
Yes, you too.
we'll bring it down a notch. No. Yes, a nice chair, and reading into a blank space. So there's a few heads around the periphery. Okay, so I've had a busy day today, a good day, enjoying retirement. And so I've got 3 poems here that I wrote. One is age 55, one at 60, and then just one the other day at 65. And they go back to age 40, roughly, but every year. But I can't find them all. My system's all over the place. So I go to Pachena Bay every year on the west coast. How many people know Pachena Bay? Yeah. It's a beautiful place. The road is terrible, but it's worth it. So this is in August 2010. For 55 years I've dwelled in this shell, in subtle changes I could not tell. A crumbling spine and ailing blood, weakened strength sent my plans aflood. I did not know it would be like this, the truth of me I'll not dismiss. Seen in a photo on Pachena's shore, my twisted frame belies my core. Gnarled and withered by the years, my psyche's evolved with all my fears. I come here year by year in summer days, my life force drinks it up with no delays. Rumi says life's sun is short and sings, be quick and spare no effort of your wings. On Pachena's beach my aging shell is nourished yearly by her gentle swell. So that's how I felt that year. So then on my 60th birthday, here, this is a bit longer. This was sort of a review of my life, and a lot of it, my life as a family doctor, and sometimes in the various things that I've been involved with in the Cowichan Valley here. On my 60th birthday, the surf's receding on Pachena's beach, and fading mist does here beseech some lingering words from this poetic soul as I consider my earthly role. After 60 years of life on this planet, I still recall how I began it. Born of doting parents, like most of us, I leapt from my mother's womb with joyful fuss to explore the bounty of God's creation, but driven by a deeper consternation, I began my soul work in a dualistic fashion, mixed with a sense of human compassion. For life and health in a holistic way, my fellow men to humbly sway in the form of a healthy body, spirit, and mind, I trained as a doctor, a teacher, one so kind. And yes, I did that for 30 years. I preached good health, I had no fears, I loved my career, the many friends I made, for you are the legacy of my life displayed. Before me here you have gathered tonight, so some words of gratitude I must set right. Thank you all for being a mirror to my life. You each in your way helped me through many a strife. From success to illness, highs and lows, it's from all of you that my heart still glows. My children, my family, colleagues and friends, because of you my spirit ascends. So many paths to healing, I studied them all, from drugs to surgery, massage and herbs I recall. There was prayer and meditation, singing and chanting, and ritual and ceremony, if you were asking. Sometimes we laughed, sometimes we cried, sometimes we danced, and death we defied. With some of you here we took to the air, slipped the surly bonds with never a care. In operating days I anesthetized all pain, but a nagging doubt said the soul must regain some feeling and insight into the illness, uncover layers, perhaps ask for forgiveness. Delivering babies was joyful work. Singing at their birth was a welcome quirk. Invited to Africa and India by grateful parents, the Survey Dunn and Rai family are now always a presence. Opening a new clinic, Silver Fern by name, was the experience of a lifetime, I here do claim. At first there was resistance and doubt some conveyed, but soon it was accepted and success it displayed. I retired from putting people to sleep. Awakening consciousness was not such a leap. The healing wisdom of another culture, I studied many, just like a vulture. In the Cowichan people, I found new expression. It's spirit sickness, not clinical depression. When you treat what you call serotonin deficient, we enter the soul world. It's more efficient. On a wet wintry night by the fire where the elders come, you'll hear the beat of the ancestors' drum. Many hours I've spent in the Longhouse sanctuary of mind, body, and spirit, a true multiversity. The Hualanitim's world has some powerful tools, but indigenous teachings must be taught in our schools. The men's groups I ran were a source of joy. Many were stuck in the mind of a boy. But by facing the past, our pain, our grief, the newborn spirit was a healing relief. A good woman stands beside every good man, and I have been blessed by a very great fan. Mariana is my light in the darkest night. Her love-filled spirit is my eternal delight. A straw bale house I built with great care. My committee helped, I had time to spare. 2 friends of note made the impossible happen. Chip and Adam kept me calm despite my flapping. And now my story is nearing the end. Memories of singing and dancing I send. Our collective souls we must always nurture. By gathering together, it's our divine nature. And one last story, my favorite to recall. What medicine you prescribed was the best of all? Asked a lady to the doctor so wise. He thought for a moment. The answer is love. It's no surprise. But what if it don't work? She got up close. Then with a smile he said, double the dose. You still with me? Hope I'm not boring you to tears. So this is the well, I'll see how much time we got after this, because I've got some Blake with me too. But and then you'll see why I write the poetry and rhyming couplets. Hornby Island, 2019 in August. This is a day to quicken the spirit and liven the soul. The waves of time on this beach unroll. They have no care for the rhythm of time. It is we two-leggeds, this view sublime, must behold this view sublime. My sister dying in a faraway land, in a 60-year time warp, oh so bland. She cannot budge from the pain of her youth as her life unfolded an eternal truth. So I amble along Pacina's strand, my truth today is close at hand. 65 in a month, it's hard to believe, another year gone by, more truth to receive. I've written, the within visible world returns in dreams. In the morning I arise and plan more schemes to fulfill some destiny retrieved from the ancient ones. A grander vision for me of many sons. Dimensions that my eternal mind could never reach. I know they're close, but never preach. Their untold visions and beauty sublime, it's we mortals must reveal their earthly rhyme. I'm repeating myself. So here I am at 65, survived childhood, leukemia, and still alive. Now how best to steward the gifts, what's left, not exit this shell with a soul bereft. It's here at Pacina that I can reflect on a life worth living and not reject the teachings of love in time and space that planet Earth has gifted this human race. All right, one last little bit of Blake. Auguries of Innocence. Yeah, I won't read it all, but it goes on. It's to see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. A dove house filled with doves and pigeons shudders hell through all its regions. A dog starved at his master's gate predicts the ruin of the state. A horse misused upon the road calls to heaven for human blood. Each outcry of the hunted hare a fibre from the brain does tear. a skylark wounded in the wing, a cherubim does cease to sing. The gamecock clipped and armed for fight does the rising sun affright. Every wolf's and lion's howl raises from hell a human soul. The wild deer wandering here and there keeps the human soul from care. The lamb misused breeds public strife, and yet forgives the butcher's knife. The bat that flits at close of eve has left the brain that won't believe. The owl that calls upon the night speaks the unbeliever's fright. So it goes on in that kind of vein. So, well, ne'er believe, do what you please. If the sun and the moon should doubt, they'd immediately go out. To be in a passion you good may do, but no good if a passion is in you. The whore and gambler by the state licensed build that nation's fate. The harlot's cry from street to street shall weave old England's winding sheet. The winners shout, the losers curse, dance before dead England's hearse. Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Some are born to sweet delight, some are born to endless night. We are led to believe a lie, when we see not through the eye, which was born in a night to perish in a night. When the soul slept in beams of light, God appears and God is light. To those poor souls who dwell in night, but does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day. Thank you, Mr. Blake.
What's everybody feeling like? You want to take a break, or do the gala followers want to push on to you guys want a tea break? Yes? Maybe you said yes. Okay with everybody? Short tea break?
Have a seat.
What are you gonna electrocute me, buddy?
No. Put your arms in the thing, no?
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Just relax.
Okay.
Take a look, because there's you, that's you, right?
Yeah.
Be all right.
That's you.
Everything's okay.
There's a little switch here. Hopefully, hopefully it.
Okay.
Fuck, it's not, what the fuck?
Well, that felt really good. That's a Halloween gag and a half, that one. Wow. Neat. Awesome. Does it look realistic from the outside looking at it? Does it look like that's the noise, yeah. Wow.
Sit down. We get the idea.
a song called Perfect Shape.
Bless the broken hearted who smell of whiskey and perfume. We sneak out after midnight and come home in the afternoon. I stole a necklace with her color from a pawn shop on 82. Just something about a perfect shade of blue. Winter has hit Edmonton and some have their complaints. Snowbirds pack their lives away and head to the southern state. Oh, I traced her name on a snowy hill with a pair of worn out boots. She's thinking about a perfect shade of blue. Lord, oh Lord, lay me down to rest, to dream a dream upon the scar of her breast. And when the night it fades from darkness, we'll have found a piece of truth. The sun will rise in the morning sky against a perfect shade of blue.
Uh-huh. Oh ho. Yee. Well, how's everybody doing? How many people tried the electric chair during the break? Has they? Everybody's tried it that wants to try it. Scintillating, titillating, electrifying. Well, Mr. Mowat, you're going to come up and show us how it's done? John? Enjoy your whole 5 minutes.
Hello. Hi. Poetry is about wonder, Homer said. A modern-day Homer, English prof, but not so far in spirit from that other ancient one. So here's a tale of wonder, not of Odysseus, but of a modern man, one who lived for wooden boats and sailing. Master of his trade, his arts. Victor Carpenter. Pardon me. Victor Carpenter, rightly named, master shipwright, honored among builders, genius, some said, and teacher of many. 2 seasons and more in Vic's boat building shop I worked. I learned in skills, grew in stature, and we sailed. For a 30-mile race to start near Sarnia, Lake Huron, 24 yachts and more moved slowly toward the buoys. We sailed Vic's build, the Golden Goose, 45-foot single-plank shining western red cedar, a master work from stem to rudder, keel to masthead, a work of beauty, and she flew. As starter's arm raised, Vic at the helm charged the line and crossed before the gun. Disqualified, he knew that, didn't care. He'd win the day anyway. The wind was light, but Vic knew ways of boats and wind and water. Some miles out, the wind dropped off, all sails hung slack, and yachts lay still around us, lightly poised on clear, blue, shining, still water. Still blue water, clear blue sky, blue above and blue below. No horizon, but only shining distant haze of light in summer sun. All was quiet, waiting. Vic at the wheel called to the crew, "Sit down, don't move." And we sat, still, and watched. Knowing his boat, knowing water, knowing air. Vic skippered the beautiful cedar plank Golden Goose, his vision and his work, from slightest breath to slightest breath, across the silent, shining lake, soft music rippling quietly around her bows. All else was still, while slow and steady on we sailed. On every side behind us, all other yachts lay calmed. We docked in port, relaxed on the wharf, and finished our work. We'd been 30 minutes across the line before our next yacht sailed in. In silence they came, slowly, one by one. Vic, he'd shown his mastery. He stood with his friends, and we were proud together. No wine-dark distant sea that day we sailed, but close to home, a day of wonder and a man where he belonged. That's that one. So how are we doing for time, Sir William?
That's about 5 minutes and 39 seconds.
All right, I'm done.
No, you got a little more time, don't you? Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, just teasing.
2 minutes.
See, it seems
It's the clock police.
like a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah. All right, thank you. Some of you might be familiar with the classical Greek tale of Endymion, a very handsome young man, a shepherd, who had the very mixed fortune of being loved by a goddess. It didn't turn out so well for him. Endymion. Again, poor mortal, in love with goddess, dull fellow, outclassed. Stands with his feet on his hillside, feels her music in the stars. "You are a brave soul," she said, as through her to him of greatness visions came. Mind filled with response, explaining, speaking, he said, "I simply opened myself to a beautiful woman to give her something wanting of his heart, his admiration. In the thought unformed, trying for something important. Otherworld Sally, how you doing over there? Over there." That's it, I'm done.
Thank you, John. Thanks, John. And who's the last poet? Who's the last?
Me.
That was you. Oh, I'm sorry. Nicely done. And Mahalia, ladies and gentlemen. What's your introduction?
Corny motherfucker. So here's a book by Eric Plamondon, and it's called Mayonnaise. Sorry. Why? Okay. Then one day it clicked. I learned how to make mayonnaise. I managed to make it so well that I set off on trying all sorts of variations with a wooden spoon, an electric egg beater, a blender, a food processor, a fork, a whisk with sunflower oil, peanut oil, olive oil with more or less salt, pepper, or mustard. I developed a passion for this mysterious emulsion, for its probabilities of success and failure. I cracked dozens of eggs and experimented with abandon. I made yellow mayos using only egg yolks. I made white mayos using only egg whites. I made pink mayos with a touch of ketchup and green mayos by adding avocado. Then I got the diagnosis. My doctor broke the news to me. Cholesterol had become a factor in my life. I was flirting with a heart attack. To celebrate, I made a cocktail sauce using a mayonnaise base to which you add Tabasco and whiskey. to your health. I took 3 books out of the library this afternoon before I was early for my first appointment to donate blood in my life, and it was a horrible experience, and I'm never going to do it again. But I got these really cool little tiny books from the library, and I'll read the first page of each to you. Okay. Out of the impenetrable fog of sorrow, the shapes of a city will emerge. The colors will divide first out of the blur, the beiges and the whites and the grays of the buildings and pavement, but slowly, so you won't even notice the influx of light. The grays of the clouds will stir once the wind is introduced. The lines will come into view next, the spikes of the chimneys and slants of the rooftops, the window frames, the chiseled bed for the river, the bridges sloping across. The big tower will pierce its way in, squat and settle, followed by the shorter lines, the antennas, the branches of trees, the eaves troughs, the poles, the gates to the courtyards accessible only by code. Below the street level, the metro will churn to life, tunneling its way through the city, and by its sheer force set into motion other mechanical and human traffic. Cars, buses, scooters, bicycles, strollers, and those emergency vehicles that wail better here, more humanely, less unpleasantly than their Toronto counterparts. As if on a conductor's downbeat, the people will swarm the streets to form the hectic chorals of a weekday morning, moving with purpose this way and that. The noise will surge, disperse, and differentiate, and given that you are in bed, hiding in the penumbra of your rented garret, how do you say that? Garret? It will reach you as the ring of the bell from the school on the block, the noise of the TV in the apartment next, the shutting of the doors, and the steps in the stairwell. And that's a book called All That Sang by Lydia Perovic. Okay, one more. This is the chronology. Where's the freaking first chapter? Fuck you. Just kidding. I don't mean that. Why is there a friggin' chronology, an introduction, and a preface, and no first chapter? Maybe because it doesn't have one. Hey, I found it. No, I didn't. I'll just read the first page. No, I don't want to read the first page. Somebody help me. Shut up. Dear sir, your letter only reached me a few days ago. Let me thank you for the great and endearing trust it shows. There is little more I can do. I cannot go into the nature of your verses, for any critical intention is too remote from me. There is nothing less apt to touch a work of art than critical words. All we end up with. There is more or less felicitous misunderstandings. Things are not all as graspable and sayable as on the whole we are led to believe. Most events are unsayable, occur in a space that no word has ever penetrated, and most unsayable of all are works of art, mysterious existences whose life endures alongside ours, which passes away. Having begun with this preliminary remark, all I will go on to say is that your verses have no identity of their own, though they do have tacit. How do you say that? Tacit? Hey, okay, that sounds really meager. And concealed hints of something personal. I feel that most clearly in the last poem, My Soul. There, something individual is trying to come into words to find its manner, and in the lovely poem To Leopardi, perhaps a kind of affinity with this great and solitary man develops. Still, the poems are not yet anything in themselves, nothing self-sufficient, not even the last one and the one to Leopardi. Okay, whatever. That's really boring. I don't think I'm going to like that one. So, Rainer Maria Rilke. No, I'm going to like it. My grandma said Rilke earlier. I just called you Jill.
Jill. That's my alter ego, Jill. She only comes out at night. It's really a wrestling match. I see. Keith? Keith is tapping his toes. Come on up, Keith. You've been so patient. Mr. Williams.
Well, yeah, because if I get nervous. Well, yeah. Trigger warning. Actually, tonight I'm passing on doing any weird original things, and I'm going to read some 2 or 3 shortish poems. But I think Mark said something in his piece about flesh-eating humans, which reminded me, I'm reading a book. It's about a history of the Russian Gulag, and one interesting thing in there was that quite often, when there was going to be an escape, the gulags, of course, were in very isolated places. And some of the, when the escapees particularly were the criminal element as opposed to the political prisoners, often they would invite an extra person along, someone that was quite new to the gulag and hadn't lost a lot of weight yet. They called that person the walking pantry. And typically did devour that person on the way out. So I'm going to read 2 or 3 poems by a poet by the name of Georg Trakl, who was Austrian and had quite a short, unhappy life. He was a bit of a mystery man. Rainer Maria Rilke did say of Trakl, who could he have been? Trakl's thing seemed to be his poems were basically about what you would call, I guess, a negative idol or a negative paradise. I love negativity so much. I think that's why I'm drawn to him. But so this one, the first one is a short one called Nearness of Death. Oh, the evening deep in the somber hamlets of childhood. The pond beneath the willows fills with the tainted sighs of sadness. Oh, the wood which softly lowers its brown eyes, when from the solitary's bony hands the purple of his enraptured days ebbs down. Oh, the nearness of death. Let us pray. This night the delicate limbs of lovers, yellowed with incense on warm pillows, untwine. Georg Trakl had he wrote several poems about a mythical boy called Ellis, who was apparently somewhere between the dead and the not yet born. This is called To the Boy Ellis. Ellis, when the ouzel calls in the black wood, this is your own decline. Your lips drink in the coolness of the blue spring in the rocks. No more when softly your forehead bleeds, primeval legends, and dark interpretation of the flight of birds. But you walk with soft footsteps into the night, which is laden with purple grapes, and move your arms more beautifully in the blue. A thorn bush sounds where your lunar eyes are. Oh, Ellis, how long you have been dead. Your body is a hyacinth into which a monk dips his waxen fingers. Our silence is a black cavern, from which at times a gentle animal steps out and slowly lowers heavy lids. Upon your temples, black dew drips, the last gold of perished stars. One more, which is simply called Ellis. Absolute is the stillness of this golden day. Under old oak trees, Ellis, you appear, one resting with round eyes. Their blueness reflects the sleeping of lovers. Against your mouth, their rosy sighs died down. At nightfall, the fisherman hauled in his heavy nets. A good shepherd leads his flock along the forest edge. Oh, how righteous, Ellis, are all your days. Softly sinks the olive tree's blue stillness on bare walls. An old man's dark song subsides. A golden boat sways, Ellis, your heart against a lonely sky. A gentle chiming of bells resounds in Ellis's breast at nightfall, when to the black pillow his head sinks down. A blue deer bleeds in the thorny thicket quietly. Aloof and separate a brown tree stands. Its blue fruits have fallen away. Cymbals and stars softly go down in the evening pond. Behind the hill, winter has come. At night, blue doves drink the icy sweat that trickles from Ellis's crystal brow. Always, God's lonely wind sounds on black walls. On that note, thank you.
What's his name again? Georg Trakl. It's perfect poetry for fall. Then I played at the Broadmead Lodge for the first time on last Thursday or something, and it was most people are over 80 and maybe over 90, and so I played ballads and I played them slower, thinking like from that era, wartime songs and things I'd learned on the ukulele. Thinking, well, they can more readily sing along if I play them slower, which was a bad call apparently because they found me boring and too melancholy. So I blew that gig first time out. Thanks for hanging in there, John. Oh, you're still here. Maury, did you have something you wanted to share? No? Where were we? Oh, it's you two again, down to the, who's going to go? Andrew. Hey, John, we haven't made you go last for a while. I don't think. Good sir.
Yeah. So the ones I'm going to read are fairly long. The first one's 3 pages, which is weird for a poem that I write because it's longer. So we'll just go into it and then see where we come afterwards. So last night I decided to grow my hair in the style of Louis Real, and all of a sudden it made sense. My anxiety took off to the next town over, and one cool, clear head was all I had to call my own. Small politics were the crow's feet, the red-rimmed eyes, the designer drug ecosystems, and the friends who never took off their sunglasses. Insignificant matter whatever occurred to me previously. Fences that ripped my t-shirt when I hopped over them in my youth. The barbs that sang bar-time tunes in a patronizing tone as they sank easily into my beer belly. Fine friends, It is at this point that we meet our inevitable estrangement. A time though it was lukewarm while it lasted, but will sting when we disengage. Nevertheless, let us be done. A foreskin severed, a kid sent out into the wild. A beginning is an ending, is a beginning, is an ending, is a beginning, regular as any healthy heartbeat. And cynicism, my long-suffering darling, I can't spend the whole night tethered to your bony side. You're so cool about solitude, but so non-committal about nourishment. And I'm only on lease here. I have a few things to sup up before I go. And yes, I know someone is handing out sickening shots. The floor is sticky, I know. I can see as well as you. The girls are covering their muffin tops with sequins and glitter. The boys make a show of appetite, but all have body issues. And the speaker is pumping out the Moonlight Sonata, I know. I'm making things up, I know. Taking the fire out with the ashes again. Hiding intoxicants in the freezer box in the junk drawer. Holding hands with anchors and entertaining my neurotic side again. But this nihilistic scene is done for me. I've decided on a new haircut. I might even invest in a tin of pomade. Then there'll be no stopping me. Thank you. And you spooks lingering about my earlobes, you ghouls at the top of the stairs at witching hour, dull swords on empty hills, desire pruned, and black dogs gnawing at the porch door. Oblivion taken rent of my liver and street lights blotting out the madness I've grown accustomed to. From here on in, like bad blood, no amount of leeches can remedy. Like adversarial gazes stuck at a stalemate, let silence be the only indicator of time between us, and as such, let it be timeless. Damn, so that one's that one. Thanks. The next one's called Peace Treaties. It's kind of about like a friendship breakup, so it's kind of grieving someone who's still alive and that sort of paradoxical feeling. Yeah. It is late in the evening. I'm sucking on mango-flavored vapors, which are heavy in low notes with no complimentary highs. I've put everything to bed but myself. And throughout the whole evening, cooking, sitting, smoking, snuggling, and bullshitting with my dung flower, there's this kink in my rhythm, and it's you. So here I am, made tropical by idle hands, mango on my breath and rain pummeling the space below neon lights, compiling a growing list of failings and grievances, mapping out cool kid constellations whose sway I shirk off with casual disregard, though it caught you, and off you go. There are dark moods that sometimes take rent of my eyes, deflated letters written in the lull of the war, and apocalyptic notions I try not to give mind to. All the same, I'll try to buck up, play with illicit toys, solitaire games, and three-finger glasses. Ignore the death knell silence that sometimes resounds around my phone when that old fractal feeling comes rumbling about. That old fractal feeling, shifting plates and torn fabrics, grief and insufferable guilt, carefully planned text and a bit of brimstone tucked in my cheek like a wad of chew. But come, old friend, let us pass the peace pipe between us and pray not to get too sown to speak. Let us be honest and empathetic, chisel attention into hard truths, be conducive through fiction. I keep awkward hours, and you've a vampire tethered to your side most everywhere you go. But the road between us is paved and smooth, our vehicles in fine working order, as trimmed and as perfect as our best intentions. And here we are, turning the radio dial, drifting through static and stations, worrying that it's actually silence that we're after. Okay, last one and then I'm done. I don't even know what this, I guess I haven't told you any of the words of what they're called, the titles, but we'll just be done after this one. The world is ecstatic. It's 12:27 in the evening, and she has her knitting needles in her hand. And I'm sitting on a floral love seat, shifting with atmospheric vibrations, recklessly venturing a pleasant outlook, at least for a few hours' time. The streets are quiet and numinous, and she smiles at me whenever I leave the room. The smoke leaves my lungs, and I think of all of my best lines. If the fireplace wasn't defunct, it would be heavy with embers, and the hum of ventilators pepper the air, and every light is like the descendant of a candle. If I had a cat, it would be curled in my lap. If I had a vision, it would be seductive and dimly lit. If she had comfort, it would be confetti at the end of the day, and a warmth nestled in the base of her spine. It is an opium night. Stillness articulates itself in her movements, and I disintegrate and expand on her palette, becoming art by simply being in her presence. And if I were a toad, this would be my hollow log, and if I could see the moon, it would be sickle and nonchalant. And if this were a Greek tragedy, it would somehow end well, and the children fall asleep without the nightlight on. As the butcher spares the soul and the killers take a holiday, as the sight obscures the eye and the deers are left to linger freely, as a holy writ gets scrawled across graffiti tags and the driver lets everyone ride for free for the day. But still here in our sanctuary, somewhere around midnight, with no cloven feet and no high ordeals besides those that we choose to court. And if one true way is slim and narrow, we choose to bushwhack, befriending every strange creature we chance to meet. And if anything, the will to live, it's like a lichen, slow to conquer, moving with subtle grace, almost impervious to the stony surface, the only source upon which it could exist, porous and willing to wait decades to climb a hard surface.
So they're closing their doors?
No, just the event is over.
Oh, Brigitte, you have missed it. The Wild Wings is done. Did you need to be there to receive congratulations, right? Oh. All right. Thank you, Andrew. Wonderful writing. What's the kerfuffle down here? Just settle down. In the second poem, it was mango-flavored... What? Mango-flavored? Vapors. Oh, not smoking vapors, but just vapors. What? Oh, that was a deal with the devil, eh, Rachel? And I believe I heard you refer to that rare exotic bird that you live with as a dung flower. Did I mishear that? Oh, that's great. I've been doing it wrong all these years. Okay, John Hadfield. Is that you, Mariana? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mariana. Happy birthday to you. Stephen said you had partied hard all afternoon and that you were tired, but thank you for coming. Did you want to recite something? You're just good. Okay. Nice hat. John, sorry to make you wait so long, Mr. Hadfield.
It's that Andrew. He went on way too long. I'm going to speak really fast. The first thing I'm going to do is my friend Ryan Guldeman wrote a poem at 30,000 feet, and then he sent it to me after he landed, I suppose. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because you guys all read poetry, and I don't. So here we go. It's called Sick Pain Return Home. She said, "What are you thinking about?" Just as I wondered what it might be like to drink the clouds, or dance with an eagle's spine, or play the violin with a crying baby, or sleep with a 90-year-old, or attack a stranger's dog, or how I'd kill myself. I think about the yellow dew between a fat woman's thighs and pea soup, or the dust on a lampshade and reincarnation. I think about the secret life of toenails, or how some laughter inhales itself while other laughter rapes the atmosphere. I think about rape itself, if I'm being honest, the experience on either side. I think about thinking about it, and if, by this act alone, do I somehow put the world in danger, do depraved concepts flee the skull to drift the land until caught by hands bad enough to perform them? Or is this how one fortifies the good inside their own searching heart? By letting the hot, infected breath of sin fog the cheek and trigger defense, like a vaccination. How can I recoil if I don't get close? What does mold do in the dark? Sick pain, return home. Nothing really, I told her. I forgot to hit the button. What was that? Okay, I've been doing the cab story thing, and then I started writing a very long story. And as it turned out, I just got through a 12-hour shift, and it took 15,000 words. And I thought, that's enough writing for you fuckers, so I'm going to just read some of it. This is called The Hooker. The view of the world from inside his cab isn't pretty. He's on a downtown street. It's late at night. There's some kind of riot or protest going on. He just dropped off ahead of it, hoping to escape before the large, angry crowd enveloped him. Now he's caught and trying to get away. People keep yelling and kicking his car. It's no place to be. A young woman breaks from the crowd and pleads with him through an open window to take her out of here. She struggles to open the door against the jostling crowd and slides into the front seat with great difficulty, gasping. She looks over the seat through the back window and lets out a moan. He looks in his rear view and sees a man trying to push his way through the crowd, trying to catch up to the car. But the people are swarming around him, and he finally gives up and stands there watching the cab pull away. The crowd had started to thin out, and it gave him a chance to move the cab faster. She turns to him and says, "Oh my God, thank you. You have no idea what you just did for me." She looks back again. While she does, he takes a good look at her. She's sort of pretty, a bit rougher than how she first appeared. But then he recognized her from the street. She's been working a corner down on the east side. Just lately, she seems really drunk, but doesn't smell like alcohol. She keeps turning around and looking through the back window. "Oh my God, I hope Mandy's all right," she says. "Who's Mandy?" he asks. "She's my friend. We work the same corner. We're friends. We look after each other." She starts to slur and slump against the door. "I think I've been drugged. Please take me home." She gives him an East Side address and a $20 bill. "Here's a 20. You can have it all. I think I'm going to pass out. Please help me." "You want I should call it in and get the police onto it? You need to go to the hospital?" "Police? Geez, what planet you on? They don't care about us. I know a bunch of girls that just disappeared. Nobody's done anything about it. Just take me home." "You think that guy has something to do with the disappearances?" he asked, looking in the rear view. He tried to," and then she passed out. He tries to give her a shake, but she doesn't respond and keels over his way, and her head falls down on his lap, face up. Her eyes are wide open, but blank, and her pupils are dilated. He looks up to the road again and then repeats the address to himself. "Fuck," he says. "Why me? Why tonight? Fuck." He hadn't been driving cab all that long, and it wasn't easy making money. Long hours and slow nights didn't help. Getting involved in his passengers' troubles was a sure way to make next to nothing. It's not like it hadn't happened before. He did have that 20 though, so there was that. He gets to the address she gave him in about 15 minutes. The house is dark and uninviting. He looks down at her, and she looks slightly angelic except for the drool running out her open mouth. There's no way she's waking up. He lifts her head up and slides out the door. He goes up to the house and knocks. No answer. He looks through the window and sees a darkened living room. No sign of life. "Fucking great," he goes. "Now what? Hospital? God, more wasted time." He realizes he's not that far from his own house. It's not like the boys don't bring home strays from time to time. Now it's his turn. 2 of his buddies are his partners in the house. The 3 of them decided it was cheaper to buy than rent. They were all in their early 20s and wanted to make money. Hubert drove a bus at night, and Howard worked for an Italian landscaper all day. In their spare time, they worked on renovating the house so they could sell it. He heads over, hoping at least one of them is home, or maybe there's a party going on. That wasn't unusual. It was Friday night, after all. Is that long enough? Okay. Who did that? Off with his head. It's his fun night. He pulls up in front of the house and can see there's people in the living room. He walks in, sees Howard nursing a beer in a comfy armchair they found on the side of a street. He motions to him to come to the door. He looks pretty pissed, but he gets up and heads over. "What's up?" Howard asks. "You want a beer, some wine? That asshole Bill got some nice weed for a change." "I'm working," he replies. "I got a problem out in the car. I need your help." "What is it?" he says, and staggers out the door, crouches down on the porch trying to see into the car. "It's a girl. She's in trouble and she's passed out." "Oh, then she's really in trouble, all right," says Howard, giggling. "Let's get a look at her. What do you want to do?" They walk down the stairs and over to the cab. The engine is still running, so he goes to the other side and shuts it off. When he opened the door, the light comes on, and Howard whistled. The girl's very short skirt is hiked up, and she's not wearing panties. "Whoa," he says, "she's hot. Where'd you find her, Slow? What'd you do to her?" "I didn't do squat," says Slow. "I picked her up downtown. She gave me an address out here, and then she passed out. Said she thought some guy had drugged her. I can't wake her up, and she gave me a $20 bill to look after her." "Oh, I'll look after her, all right," says Howard. "Fuck you will," he says. "You're going to help me carry her upstairs to my room, and we'll lay her out on the bed. I got to get back to work. Still got a few hours to go, then I'll be home. You need to keep an eye on her if she wakes up. Can you do that for me, please?" Howard lets out one of his infamous high bleating laughs. This should be good, he says. Sure, okay, let's get her moved. I'll take her legs, you get her under the arms when I pull her out. As he pulls, the skirt hiked up to her waist, and Howard starts giggling again. Slow climbs through the seat and gets behind her with his legs out the door and her upper body between his thighs. He reaches forward and pulls her skirt down. It didn't go too badly except for going up 2 flights of stairs. Howard kept giggling like a hyena, so he'd go slightly off balance from all the wine and weed. They finally get to the bedroom and half tossed, half placed her down. She didn't even moan or move. He threw the bed cover over her. There? Thank you.
Good storytelling, John. Do we have to come back next month? Yeah. To get the cereal? Why was the character named Bill an asshole? Oh, right. There's a reason. Okay, we can't end on that sea of fetid humanity. No, very good stories, John. We've been enjoying John's work for the last few months. My God. I just wanted to thank you all for coming out, and especially return as some of the lovely alumni, Stephen and Byron and such folks. And you, the core group, who have been coming out regularly. I really appreciate that. And one thing I appreciate is that also as a writer that we don't always have to read something we've written if there's nothing happening. It's just as much fun to read something that you enjoy. And giving them equal weight is kind of a nice measure for the things that are originally written, I think, that they're all placed equally on the stage, and we're able to enjoy them. So, a little tiny bit of Emily to send you off. The sides of the tunnel were forest, the top overhanging trees, the floor racing water. We could not have squeezed into the woods had we tried, because they were so thick, and we could not have seen where to put our feet, nor could we have seen over the top, because the undergrowth was so high. Every twist the stream took, it sang a different tune and kept different time. It would rush around the corner of a great boulder and pour bubbling into a still pool, lie there pretending it had come to be still, but all the time it was going round and round as if it was learning to write O's, and then it would pour itself smoothly over a wedged log and go purling over the pebbles, quiet and dreamy. Suddenly it would rush for another turn and roar into a rocky basin, trickling out of that again into a wide singing place. It had to do all these queer things and use force and roughness to get by some of the obstacles. But sometimes the stream was very gentle, and its round stones were covered with a fine brown moss. When the moss was wet, it looked just like baby's hair. You could pretend the stones were babies in their bath, and the stream was sponging water over their heads. That is from the Book of Small by Emily Carr. So I'll leave you with that beautiful view of nature. And thanks to Longevity John, who birthed this idea nigh 12 years ago. And if you make it next month for the birthday celebration, and I was going to say, if you happen to be a baker and you want to bring some cake, or you're not a baker and you want to bring cake or cupcakes or something, feel free, or dip. I think those would be the things that you would bring to a poet reading birthday party. Cake and dip, yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for a wonderful night, and happy birthday to Mariana, and best of luck to you all. We'll see you next month. Thanks so much.
I see freight train, going so fast. Freight train, oh, going so fast. Well, I don't care what train I'm on, as long as it keeps on rolling on. Don't know where I'm headed for. Makes no difference, I say, anymore. Well, I got no future and I've got no home. Can't do nothing now but roam. Well, I say, freight train, going so fast. Freight train, oh, now going so fast. Well, I don't care what train I'm on, as long as it keeps a rolling on. When my baby left my side, something deep I say inside me died. Well, I've got to keep moving on till the memories of her are gone. Well, I say, freight train, going so fast. Freight train, yeah, going so fast. Well, I don't care what train I'm on, as long as it keeps a rolling on. When I die, bury me please, way down at the end of old Chestnut Street. Well, I say poplars and on my head and feet. Tell her that I've gone to sleep. Well, I say freight train, going so fast. Freight train, going so fast. Well, I don't care what train I'm on, as long as it keeps a rolling on. Well, I say I don't care what train I'm on, as long as it keeps a rolling on. Well, the train keeps rolling on. Well, the train keeps rolling on.